Hey, Chris Lipe here. We're breaking down the style of Geddy Lee. Now, Rush, arguably one of the, if not the most influential prog rock band that has ever existed. And Geddy Lee's vocals, while building on some of the things that Robert Plant and some other people that came before him did, he really, in terms of melody composition, his interaction with the other instruments in the band, and his intensity, took things to a whole new level. He's also a fantastic example of clean mix, being able to sing across his range with varying amounts of intensity and not having to get super distorted, but he can if he wants to. It's pure, it's clean, and it's still intense. So I'm excited to go through this style with you. And I know I say this in every singing style of video that I do, but we have to be careful that we don't go into these videos with the intent of imitation. You're going to sound like you, I'm going to sound like me, Geddy Lee's going to sound like Geddy Lee. But we can learn from how they approach singing. Some of the things that they do, how they get their sounds, by diving into that with the perspective that we're going to be taking aspects of their voice and their approach and putting it in our own voice and our own style. This is incredibly valuable as a singer. Every bit as valuable as a guitar player learning licks from another guitar player. That's how we want to approach this. Also, the concepts we're going to be dealing with in this video are quite advanced. We're going to be dealing with a dialed-in, fine-tuned mixed voice. And if you need help with mixed voice, be sure to join my free vocal course linked below, and I will help you develop the fundamentals so that you can start pursuing a greater range, more power, better support, and an overall more confident, unique singing voice. Here's the first example.
The spacey invader gets by on you.
All right, before we get into singing, let's talk about his general tonal approach. Now, if you hear me talking, it's a normal speech thing. We're going to, in speech, try to get a little bit of the tone that he's getting when he sings. And to do that, we're going to do this. We're going to raise our larynx. And we're going to brighten our face. So we're going to get our face out of the way so we have a little bit more teeth showing. This is especially important for someone like me who has a lot of skin. Like this. And then we're going to talk a little bit higher. Hey, like this. Hey, and then, and stay with me here. I like to make a lot of goofy noises and do some things that we wouldn't think would be helpful for singing, but really are, because we're getting ourselves kind of out of the way and what we think we need to sound like and experimenting. This is important for every singer. So we're going to imitate a worried old lady. Oh no! I just can't believe you would do such a thing! We're going to do that. And as we do that, we're going to free ourselves of maybe some inhibitions that we have about what people think. Oh no! Whatever will they think? And at the same time, we're unlocking quite a few things about our voice. This idea that we don't just have to speak in chest resonance. Oh no! Notice how high I got there? Oh no! This, what I'm doing here, is speaking in mixed voice. If you can get this impression or this imitation down, you will be a huge step ahead when you go to singing like some of these guys who use a good clean mix. Now, of course, it sounds way more ridiculous and less musical than what they're doing, but I had to lay that foundation. Now, let's go to the actual example and start singing.
The spacey invader gets by on you.
The space, not space, space. Worried old lady, right? Space, spacey invade.
The spacey invader gets by.
In the spacey space, the spacey invades, he gets by on you. Then he speaks you. So high larynx position. Pitch up, space, 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 space. And practice taking that around to different points of your range using mix.
The spacey invades, he gets by on you.
The spacey invades, he gets by on you. Now, the other thing that he's doing, if you listen carefully to his vibrato, and this will be more prevalent as we go on in some other examples, he is teetering on breaking into pure head resonance when he goes into his vibrato.
The spacey invades, he gets by on.
Bye, bye. That's why his bye, bye, bye. I'm breaking it to kind of show you what the next progression would be if he de-supported his voice. But living in that space right before break with your vibrato is going to give you a lighter, above the pitch sound, as opposed to going flat when you try to add vibrato, which is what a lot of singers do. Next example.
And what do you say about his company?
So here is a more extreme version of that worried old lady sort of thing that we're talking about.
And what do you say about his company?
And what you say about his company? And what you say about his company? Now, I'm not singing that like this. And what you say about his company? It's a very different voice. That's a lower larynx position. That is, they're both belted, but the lower larynx position is keeping me in pure chest resonance longer. Even when Geddy Lee is singing lower, he's singing in this mixed voice. Dying cat is something that I've used to describe mixed voice. And this worried old lady is another way to access that. Be sure to check out my videos on mixed voice, particularly the one about singing like Chris Cornell, to get an idea of the other, more chesty version of what I'm showing you.
And what do you say about his company?
And what you say? And what you say about his company? I've got a heavier voice than he does, a lower set voice. One of the main mistakes we make when listening to a guy like Geddy Lee, or wanting to sing like someone like Geddy Lee and use this higher mix, is that we tend to say, well, that's just the way they sing. Or they've got a high tenor voice. I'll never be able to do that. Well, don't say that. You won't be able to sound like them if you have a heavier voice. But you will be able to sing and use some of the same techniques that they're using. Next.
It's what you say about society.
Ooh.
It's what you
Let's get light. Is what you say about society.
It's what you say about society.
He's going all the way up to a D5 there. That what? Now, we want to practice getting up there slower and more cleanly. He's got a little distortion there.
It's what you
Just a little. We want to get there clean and slower so that we can really understand how that note is supposed to feel. Here's what you say. Take this approach. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure I'm well supported. I'm going to use some vocal compression, which is a big part of this sound. I've talked about this in other videos. Here's how I'm going to get there. Normal speech. Compressed speech, like I'm lifting something heavy. Welcome any little tiny bits of grit that come in. Now I'm going to raise the pitch. Worried old lady, oh no! I'm not going for pitch there, I'm just going for feel. That way we don't defeat ourselves going, there's no way I could ever hit a D5, I'm a baritone. We don't want to say that. Worried old lady, highly compressed worried old lady, is what you say about it, what you say about society. It's not always going to come out as pretty as the recording, for sure, and as pretty as we can make it. but we want to experiment with this way of approaching notes. Slow, clean, compressed, from well supported from down here. And I've talked about this before too, but bearing down and thinking up. That's how we want to approach this. That's how we want to approach this. What do you say about society? And there will be, as you add that compression, a natural fry distortion that will gradually come in, especially if you can add that over the top, as we'll see in another example. But especially right now, and especially as Geddy Lee is singing cleanly, we want to make sure we can do it as clean as possible. Next.
Each must know his part. Each must know his part.
Okay, so this is a good example of him being a little lower. We can spend a bit more time dialing in the fundamental sound so that we can get to some of those higher parts. Each must know, not each must know his part. There, I'm tensing up. I'm relying 100% on my chest resonance. But if we access this compressed mix in our lower, not having to range, right? Each, right there is a fantastic drill to do when we're trying to access lower, semi-chesty mix. Each. If you can squeak it like that, each, as opposed to each. Hear the difference? I hope so. Here is how we go from each to the more sort of squeezed mix. And I say squeezed because compression is a huge part of this. We're holding back air. Raising our larynx. Now, this isn't to be confused with tightening our neck. We're not doing this. We're not tightening our jaw. We're not forcing our larynx up. We're kind of letting it happen. A good way to feel this is to try to push more air through your nasal passage. So if you plug it up, you'll definitely hear. If you can get to that point and then leave your nasal passage open, you'll get there.
Each must know.
Now, each, let's sing with it. Each must know. Each must know.
Each must know his part.
Each must know his part. Now, we are absolutely in crow voice here. See my video on Freddie Mercury. Lots of sound pushed through the nasal cavity. Nasal is good. It helps you access some of this stuff if you can get the feel down. Now, if you listen to each
must know.
Each is actually nasal passage. There's not as much going through nasal. Each must. Must is absolutely done with lots of nasal resonance.
Each must.
Each must know.
Each must know.
No.
Each must know his part.
Each must know his part. Next, this one's a good one.
Well, closer to the heart, yeah.
Ooh, so there's lots of vibrato. There is some fry inserted in his mix. It becomes a little chestier, although still thin, right? Which is what we've come to love about Geddy Lee's voice.
Well,
let's do the well. Well. Not well. Well. Light and bright. Well and compressed. Well, closer to the heart. Well,
closer to the heart.
Well, closer to the heart. Well, closer to the heart. Fun stuff. Now, we can take this in a lot of different ways once we've gotten close to what he's doing from a technique perspective, right? We can use his as a starting point and then really make it our own. Well, closer to the heart. One thing I really like to do with these type of lines is start with the line and then muse on it myself by doing a run down like I just did, or doing some articulation up. And in my case, I like to darken this stuff up. It's fun to be able to go super bright, and we should practice those extremes because they help us discover more things about our voice. But if we take this, well, closer to the heart, and experiment with, once we get up to that level in terms of pitch, there's some fun things that can happen. Closer to the heart, yeah, closer to the heart, closer to the heart, yeah, closer to the heart. Next.
Why try? No why?
Now, this is great because he is getting a little bit of that fry into that top note. We know!
Why try? No why?
Now, there's doubling going on in the recording here, so that masks some of the intricacies of what he's doing, but still makes it sound cool. Why? Why try? We know why! There's a bit more, and I did it slower there. I also used a deeper, more aggressive fry there than he's using. Let's lighten it up a little bit. Why try? We know why! Now, let's talk specifically about adding fry to high mix. Once I have that clean, we know! Pretty clean, right? Well, we want to think about our distortion as coming from above our voice box, not below. Yuck. We'll limit our range, and we really can't do much with that. We want to instead think about, let's choose that no! That pitch, right? Which we've talked about. Highly compressed, worried old lady. Now, as we go up, worried old lady. We can add this awesome amount of distortion in whatever degree we want to those pitches. That's done by creating the same sort of sound that we would hear when we're talking in pure fry. And I've covered this a lot in other videos and in my course. Getting that feel. Now going quietly high in our head resonance. So we can practice this quietly, getting that feel. It's the same feel. It's just we're creating this more well-supported, or I should just say well-supported, head resonance, entering our mix, and then adding that same, we're using the muscles above our voice box. I can't stress that enough. We're not just going hard on the chords. Otherwise, you'll trash your voice in just a few minutes. There's no way you'll be able to do this for a long time. And he's lighter than most, but...
Why try? No!
We know! We know why! We know! Some good harmonic distortion in the voice that's present by adding this fry technique over the top of a clean mix. Next.
Freeze this moment a little bit longer.
Now here, he's descending, which is not what he's been doing on some of the other examples.
Freeze this moment.
So let's work that first note. Freeze!
Freeze this moment.
Freeze this moment a little bit longer. At the end, longer. He's very, very belty, which is neat because he's higher and lighter at the beginning. Freeze! Like we've been talking about. And then he brings his resonance very forward in that longer. And he uses this, what I hear and feel when I sing, as a ball of energy in the front of my mouth.
Freeze this moment a little bit longer.
Longer, longer. we can still keep it that sort of squeeze longer, although he's actually getting away from that a little bit in this particular example. Even though he's sung other pitches in other examples, that's a little bit more squeezed and a little bit more worried old lady, he actually opens up a little bit, drops his larynx, and then pushes that resonance forward. Think about it in terms of that ball of energy. Think about it in terms of feeling it in your face, and thinking about it in terms of feeling as though you're bearing down towards the floor. When we go to this sort of belt area here, as well as when we do mix, the tendency is for us many times to focus our energy on generating tone control with our neck. This is why it's so important to do this. Think sound out and up, think energy down, and the byproduct is that we get a huge amount of support coming up that fuels what we're trying to do. That helps us navigate these tonal and pitch sorts of changes. Yeah, freeze this moment a little bit longer. Next and final.
One likes to believe in the freedom of music.
One likes to believe in the freedom of music. Now, I want to leave you with this one because actually it's a perfect starting point for really getting into Geddy Lee's voice. It's descending, just like our last one was. He starts bright, he ends bright, and he has this fantastic compressed, mixed quality consistently throughout the whole line. One. We could very easily, grunge this up. One likes to believe in the freedom of music. we could go a completely different direction with that line. But he's singing because he's programmed his voice along with his genetic makeup to sing in this light, bright, playful, worried old lady kind of way. And by going to a middle of the road example and dialing in these things that I've talked about in this video, we can then begin to take pieces of what he's done and put it into a voice that we already have, that we're already working on.
One likes to believe.
One. Compressed. One likes to believe. That vibrato that teeters on the break. One likes to believe.
One.
And you notice even when I'm working on it, believe, I will let my voice break at the end of the phrase. That's a practice for me to help me make sure I'm on the edge of my break, which a lot more on my break in other videos and in my course. The break is the key to unlocking so much about our voices, being able to navigate and understand that. But here, as long as I can be right on that edge, I'm guaranteeing myself I'm light enough to continue the rest of the line in the style of Geddy Lee.
One likes to believe in the freedom of music.
One likes to believe in the freedom of music. Thanks for watching this video. Thanks for watching all my videos. I really enjoy making them. I enjoy hearing about your interaction after you watch these. Please let me know what you thought of this video. Again, if you want to take your voice much further to the next level, be sure to join my free vocal course linked below. We'll see you for more.